Hey guys, Jarek here. A very common question I get is, what are your PC specs? Now I made a video about this a few months ago, but they have changed recently and I just got this in the mail. This is a 980 Ti. So I'm going to install this in my computer and I'll continue on the video from there. A lot happened over the last 4 days. I made that clip on Monday, it's now Thursday. When I went to install the card into my case, a lot of complications came up, I've got it all worked out, and I'm finally able to finish this video. So I will explain what happened when I'm testing this card on games that are graphically intensive like Far Cry 4 and Crysis 3. So stick around if you want to hear about that and actually see it in work. But for now, let me go ahead and show you what I got in my computer. Before I show you what's in my computer, let me go ahead and show you what's out of it. I got a new monitor if you have not noticed. That used to be my main monitor. This is 1920 by 1080. This is now my main monitor. This is 2560 by 1440. So I'm running 1440p now. This monitor is a QNX QX2710. I have it overclocked to 120 Hz at the moment. It seems to be very stable at that, and I'm so far very happy with it. It was somewhat hard to come across a monitor that would fit what I needed because I needed an HDMI in so that I could run my consoles through my main LCD for the rare cases when I want to play Halo or something along those lines. But most of these monitors are basically DVI only, but I did come across this one which has both, and so far seems to be very good. The keyboard I am using is a Corsair K95 RGB. You can change each key to whatever color you would wish. It can also have a bunch of effects, like if you wanted to make it go rainbow mode or ripple mode. These are things you are absolutely never going to use. They're purely a gimmick. They're amusing, but they're purely a gimmick. In all seriousness, this keyboard is, I'm very happy with it. It is a mechanical keyboard, obviously, and I have cherry red switches on it. My mouse I am very happy with. This is a Corsair R65. If you play a lot of shooters, I really could not recommend this mouse enough. My aim feels very smooth, it has nice response time. There's a lot of feedback with the click. It doesn't feel mushy like my last mouse. This is the last mouse I used. I am not happy with this one at all. The mouse barely clicks, it's very mushy. Felt like it would lag and stutter at times. I really didn't like it. I am not having the same issue with this mouse. I am very happy with it and I couldn't recommend it anymore if you play a lot of shooters. It even has a button. I don't really use this feature. It does have a button on the side. If you push this, you can have a separate DPI level set to this. It is not toggle. You have to hold it down to keep that DPI going. This is so if you say you're sniping and you're looking down your scope, you can make a lower DPI setting for specifically when you're looking down your scope. I never really use it. Personally, I just have this DPI set to what I would prefer regularly, so if I accidentally hit it, it doesn't really matter, nothing changes. My webcam is literally just called a TechNet HD 1080p webcam. It gets the job done. This is what I use when I'm streaming. Nothing incredibly fancy or anything like that. This is the microphone I use when I'm doing voiceovers. So if I'm doing something like a gun guide, I'll be using this. This is a AT2020. It's a condenser mic. I do not use this when I'm doing live commentary. Condenser mics will pick up anything in the room, including keyboard clacks and just noises you don't want to hear, lots of background noise. When I'm doing live commentary, I am using my headset microphone. This is a Plantronics Gamescom 777. Nothing amazing, but it gets the job done and it's pretty good. Please ignore the massive tangle of cords behind my computer. I'm not bad at wire management, I swear to God. In my computer is clean. Outside of it, I honestly kind of just don't care. But the capture card I use for when I'm recording console gameplay is an Elgato HD60. The way I have this set up is I have an HDMI cable going from the console obviously into the capture card, and then from the capture card into my LCD. If you're wondering how I get audio out of this, because I don't want to use my LCD speakers, those are terrible, I have an SPDIF cable going from either my Xbox One or my Xbox 360 plugged into my sound card back here, and then I just play the digital line in, and I have crisp audio coming through my sound card. This is also why I needed a monitor that had an HDMI in. Not for my computer, and it really doesn't matter the HDMI 60 Hz only, it was for my consoles. For my speakers, I have a standard 5.1 surround sound setup. They're Logitech something or other. I honestly don't even remember anymore. I got them so long ago. But the audio is crisp enough, so there's some information about them. Something important to mention, never skip out on your router. The router I have is an Asus RT N66U. Very happy with this router. It works exactly as intended. Don't get a low quality router. Your internet will suffer. Your connection to games will suffer. The case I have is a Corsair Obsidian 550D case. I am very happy with this case. It is a completely silent case. You'll be able to see if I take this side panel off. it is completely lined with foam. So it's a very, very silent case. In order for this case to stay silent, it has pretty interesting airflow, which is directly front to back only. You'll be able to tell, if you open the front panel, one, it's lined with foam. Two, there's no fans in the front, but there actually is. It's just, if you pop this off, which again, lined with foam, you'll be able to see the fans in there. I'm sorry, it's kind of dark, but you get the idea. There's fans there. The airflow actually comes in through these little slots on the side front of the case. The only downside of this is that it attracts dust like nothing else, so you'll need to dust out this case a lot. Like most modern cases nowadays, it's completely toolless. To pop off the side panel, you just push a button and this will pop off. It's kind of difficult to do with one hand, but there you go. Then just lift it up and out, and stuff's in the way, so let me pull this off. And just as before, tons of foam all over the side of this case. Like I said many times, this is a very quiet case. So here it is, here's the new card I just installed. This is a 980 Ti, obviously, as I have mentioned. This thing requires a lot of power. I thought my 480 GTX back in the day required a lot of power. That required two 6-pins. My 670 OC required a 6-pin and a 4-pin. This requires two 8-pins. I actually didn't have two 8-pins, so I'm using a 6 and a 2 here. And then they came with these 6 to 8-pin adapter. So lots of power required for this card. My motherboard is an MSI X79A MT45-8D. My processor is an i7-3820. I'm running with an H60 heatsink on it. My RAM is Patriot Viper Extreme RAM. It's DDR3, I currently have it clocked at 1866. My sound card is a Creative Sound Blaster Fatality Pro. I am very happy with the sound card. Do not underrate sound cards. They make a huge difference when it comes to audio. It's much clearer, and the things that people don't think about, I have my headset plugged into the sound card. There is no background noise in my headset in any way whatsoever, so when I'm recording, you hear nothing but either me talking or the game. And in Skype calls and anywhere else, you don't hear any electrical interference, there's no background noise, no white noise, no nothing. So do not underestimate sound cards, they make a very big difference. My power supply is an Antec 650 watt power supply. I've been running with this thing since my freshman year in high school. This thing it's just going to continue to work. I have a bunch of hard drives. My boot drive is a 500 gigabyte Samsung 840 EVO SSD. I have two 1 terabyte green drives just for storage, nothing else. And then I have three Velociraptor hard drives. One is 300 gigabyte, the other two are 150 gigabytes. Those are purely for recording gameplay. I have 600 gigabytes just dedicated for recording gameplay. I chose Velociraptor hard drives because they have pretty good write speed and they're cheap nowadays with SSDs coming out. Oh, and I do have an optical drive, but I didn't have enough SATA ports to leave it plugged in, and who even uses optical drives at this point anymore? I've gone ahead and closed up my case, did some recording of Far Cry 4 and Crysis 3, and I will be showing you that footage real soon. Before I do that, I want to make a quick demonstration. What you're looking at right now is a YouTube page, one of my YouTube videos, with the help of a Google extension, a Chrome extension called ImprovedTube. By the way, ImprovedTube, this is an awesome extension. It can change so many things within YouTube and just make the whole process so much better, like turning off autoplay, changing the resolution of the video by default, making it actually play 1080p by default without you having to change it, stuff like that. So go check that out. But with the aid of this, I'm going to make a quick demonstration. So the player size you're seeing right here is 854 by 480, and more commonly known as 480p. The entire screen size is 2560 by 1440p. Now you're only seeing 1920 by 1080 because that's what I'm recording and rendering in, but at least for proportion's sake, you should get a better understanding. So let's go ahead and increase this 1280 by 720. Alright, so in comparison, 1280 by 720 compared to 1440p. And then let's switch up to 1920 by 1080. And there you go, there is 1920 by 1080 compared to 1440p. Again, I know you're seeing 1920 by 1080 resolution, but for proportion's sake, this should make a little bit more sense. When I did this recording, I was playing in 1440p. Even though you were only seeing 1920 by 1080, I was recording in 1440p, but I'm only rendering in 1920 by 1080. Something else I really should point out, I was having frame rate loss with DX Story and I could not understand why, so I actually recorded this footage afterward that you're about to see with fraps. I only noticed after I got all the recording done that DX Story had 4 CPU processing checked, and this hurts your CPU, this hurts your frame rate horribly. Never have that checked. So with that said, I'm only going to be rendering this video in 30 FPS, but I will tell you the frame rates I was getting when I was playing as I'm showing you the footage. So let's go ahead and skip forward and I'll show you the footage. The first bit of footage I'm showing you is of Far Cry 4. As you can see, I have it running at 120 Hz. The settings are entirely maxed out with the exception of anti-aliasing, which I have it set to MSAA 4 times. There's only one setting above this, and that is 8 times. With larger resolution, anti-aliasing becomes less absolutely needed. I can run this at MSAA 8 times if I really wanted to, but I do notice the frame rate dropping below 60 when I do that. In some places it will go down to 40 at a minimum, and I'd rather play at a solid 60 minimum. So with MSAA 4 times, the average frame rate I was getting in Far Cry 4 was 60 FPS to 90 FPS. It did fluctuate a decent amount. If I went to inside, I did notice it actually go all the way up to 120 FPS. But on average, it was somewhere between 60 to 90 FPS. It didn't go below 60 FPS, which is nice. And it ran very smoothly with all the settings I had set. When I was playing in Crysis 3, and you'll see this later, Crysis 3, the average frame rate was around 60, but it did dip down to 50 FPS occasionally, depending on what was going on. I did have one situation where it went down to 45 frames per second when I was playing, but that was very rare, and I think that was a fluke. I'm not sure what entirely caused that, and it only did it for a very short period of time. So, overall, it runs great. Both games are entirely maxed out with the exception of MSA anti-aliasing. Same maxed out settings. Other than that, FOV in both games are set to 101. That's what I prefer. If anything has a 69 aspect ratio, that's my go-to FOV. Story time. Getting the 980 Ti into my PC was not as easy as it should have been. It's a new GPU. You figure you just take out the old GPU, you put in a new one, you install some drivers, boom, you're done, you're ready to go. Nowhere near as easy as that. It really should have been, but it was not. Starting off simple, I wanted to blow up my computer before putting anything new into it. It had been a while. I think it had been like 2 months since I'd blown it out, which is a long time for me. Usually I blow up my computer every other week to, at the very least, once a month. Well, this case attracts dust like nothing else, and I was just blowing out clouds of smoke. I had like 5 minutes of just dusting this computer. There was so much dust, I felt disgusting when I was done. Took a shower immediately afterward. I was coughing while I was dusting it out. This is the most dust I've ever seen in my case, but that's a small issue. After I did that, pulled out my 670 OC, put in my 980 Ti, booted up my PC, and it didn't even post. I got the B2 error in the bottom right of my screen, which basically means you just need to update the BIOS of your motherboard. So I thought, okay, that's something I really don't want to do, but screw it, I can go ahead and do that. I have a MSI motherboard, and updating the BIOS with MSI motherboards is overall fairly painless, but to give you the too long didn't read when it comes to updating the BIOS of your motherboard, unless you absolutely need to, do not do it. If this messes up when you update your BIOS, you brick your computer. It is not usable. You will have to RMA your motherboard. Obviously, this is something you want to avoid. So, you know, there's always a little bit of tension when you upgrade your BIOS, even if you know you're doing everything perfectly, which honestly I didn't, because it's not something you really do. I knew the general idea, and with MSI it's fairly simple. The way you update your BIOS when it comes to MSI motherboards, you simply put a exe file on a flash drive, plug in the flash drive, you run the exe file, it starts updating, it restarts your computer, completes the update, and you're really done. That's all you gotta do. Well, what happened with me is that I ran the exe file, started the update, I restarted my computer, and black screen. So I'm not really sure what it's doing at this point. I'm staring at a black screen, which should be posting, and it's not doing anything. Now, if you're updating your BIOS, obviously you don't want to touch it, because if you touch it, like restart your computer out of updating or pull the flash drive out, you just done fucked up, and now your computer's bricked. So I let it sit there for about 20 minutes, just black screen, doing nothing. And eventually I just said, screw it, hard reset my computer, held down the power button, turned it back on, and then the update completed. That made me panic, honestly, because I really don't want to brick my motherboard. But after that, the update was perfectly fine. But after you update your BIOS with your motherboard, occasionally you have to reinstall some of the drivers, so I had to reinstall my networking driver for my Ethernet port and my driver for the hard drives. This caused two different issues. Two issues that were very easy to be solved that took me all fucking day to figure them out. One of them still makes me really mad. So the first issue I was having was that Windows was not detecting my hard drives properly. As I said before, I have 3 Velociraptor hard drives I use for recording. Well, it for some reason was seeing those 3 Velociraptor hard drives as one RAID partition, which obviously it wouldn't work. I am not sure why Windows was seeing it as this. If I looked at it in the BIOS, they were all their own hard drives. They were exactly as intended. Within Windows, no, they were all one drive, hard drive that I couldn't make. I couldn't format, I couldn't touch, I couldn't do anything with them. I fiddled around for a good 2 hours or so trying to figure out why I was doing this and could not come to a conclusion, could not find a solution, didn't know what was going on. As a last-ditch fuck it response, I used a Windows Restore, and that fixed it. Still have no idea what caused that, but whatever, it was fixed. The other issue I was having is that the internet was not working properly. I could sign on to Skype and Steam, but I couldn't get on to any browsers. Nothing was working properly. Now, typically when this happens, this points to a DNS server error, but I was still pinging websites, so that wasn't what was going on. And needless to say, this had me stumped. If I opened up a browser, it just said error connection, and it didn't really give me much to go with, so I had no idea what was happening. This took me even longer to figure out than the hard drive issue. I simply could not find a solution. It took me 3-4 hours, even longer than the hard drive's problem. I eventually rebooted my computer in save mode with networking, opened my browser, and this time the error actually gave me something useful. It gave me something different. What it said was something along the lines of, "Your computer's time is wrong, cannot access the internet." I am not shitting you. Because the date on my computer was wrong, I couldn't access the internet. 1 year off. It said 2014, and for that reason, it pretty much said, fuck off, you can't use the internet until I change the date. And then it worked perfectly fine. Are you kidding me? Have you ever come across those solutions where you're happy that it's fixed, but you're so mad that was the problem? That is one of those times. That should have never happened. But after that, everything was finally fixed. Everything was finally working up and running. The upgrade process took way longer than it should have, but I got it working, and I am happy with the results. Also, in the process of doing this, my second LCD finally kicked the bucket, and I'm not really too mad about this. This LCD I'm talking about that died, I have had this thing since like freshman year of high school. It's close to like 10 years now, and I didn't get it firsthand either. I got it from someone else, so it's even older than that. This thing is so old it didn't even have an HDMI in, just VGA and DVI. So I'm not really mad that that one finally died. I've been needing to replace it for a while, and this pretty much just forced me to, and that's why I have a 1440p LCD now, compared to the 1920 by 1081 I was using a while ago, which now has a dead pixel as well. So, I mean, these are things that I have been needing to replace for a while, and I'm finally have done it. And you can see the games run very, very well. I mean, granted, you guys are only seeing 30 FPS, 1920 by 1080, but they run great, they look great. You are going to be seeing a graphical improvement in my videos compared to what, well, not too much. Typically I was able to max most games out before, but now I'm able to max them out properly, I guess. I mean, there was only a few games I couldn't max out with my 670 OC. That was Far Cry 4, Crysis 3, Metro 2033, so the games you're seeing here, I couldn't max properly, especially if I was recording. So, very, very happy that I finally have the upgrades done. I might have some footage left over, so enjoy the rest of this footage of Crysis or Far Cry or whatever is going on at the moment. Thanks for watching this video, and if anybody asks what's in my computer or hardware setup, I get that question a lot. Link them over to this video. This is very in-depth, tells you everything going on. So, I'll see you guys next time.
Suppressing! Psycho. Something's disrupting my HUD. I'm gonna see if I can get a fix on it.
Casualties reported in sectors 2 Delta 1 through 5. This area is now under quarantine. Critical threat. Xenosac presence detected in sectors 2 Delta 1 through 5.
Prophet, I can't see the enemy. All I got is movement in the grass. I'm holding a secure position on the bluff, but it's only a matter of time before I'm overrun.
Copy that. Headed your way to take some of the heat off.
Trauma care. 2 Delta 1 through 5. Combat medic teams respond immediately. Multiple casualties reported in sectors 2 Delta 1
you
through
bastards!
5.
I need a minute to figure out an exfil plan. Romeo Actual, Romeo 1. Exit route Bravo is a no-go. Please advise. No alternative? Who the fuck are you? No, I do not want to talk to you! Shut it! No, I want Claire! Oh, fuck it. Go on. Improvise? What the fucking hell do you mean improvise? Where's your plan B? You think it will take us to Broadsword? Are you sure about that, sunshine?
Warning. All personnel in Sector 2 Delta 3 evacuate immediately. Engage fencing units en route.
Calling in the napalm choppers. Let's get out of here before Cell turns us into roast potatoes.
Well, I don't know about you, but I call that fucking flawless.